Hello everyone, welcome to another video showcasing how to play this commander deck. It's the green-blue version of my, general list that I've been working on. Pretty straightforward, still loaded with card draw, rampant interaction, headed by Thrasios and Kodama, both fairly solid creatures in the zone, and giving the deck consistent options in nearly any situation or stage of the game. So I'm going right into it, looking at the opening hand. It is a bit land light, but given what's present, oops, sorry about that. All it really takes is to draw one land for this hand to be completely fine. So we got two lands here, Rampant Growth, we'll get another land onto the field. Finale of Devastation, X2, we'll also get Sakura Tribe Builder. So we can get to, assuming we draw a land, we can get to 5 mana fairly easily. And then if we don't hit another land, Teferi can help loot into other land. So I'm going to keep this pretty confident on the fact that we'll either draw land or ramp into more land. Draw. All right, extra turn, really not ideal, not what we want to see here. The extra turns are generally only good when you already have a lot going on. So standard turn one, just play an island. Whole Rejuvenation springs back in the case of a strip mine, although I would expect that would be fairly aggressive for an early turn of commander. So we'll go right into the next turn. Island is what we want to see. We need lands in this hand. Tap 2, go for the Rampant Growth, straightforward. Since we already have triple blue here, we'll go for a forest. The only triple green pip card in this deck is Kogla Titanate. Other than that, double green is usually more than enough. Triple green is also ideal in the event to play Thrasios and Seaborn Muse in one turn, but doubles should be fine. Searching out triple for that one case is okay, but definitely blue is more important in this deck. So resolve the Rampant Growth, shuffle, move right on to turn 3. Our risk call, not bad. Not great, still looking for lands, really. You wouldn't expect to need to interact this early into the game, but it wouldn't be the end of the world if we had to either. So we have a decision point here. Finale for X2 gets Sakura Tribe Builder, which will definitely put us on 5 mana next turn, or we can jam Teferi out and take advantage of his looting ability on every other player's turn. That's probably a stronger play here, just because we have redundancy in these two Sphinxes, and Capture Jing's really not that useful at the moment. We could turn that card into land, or possibly turn Finale into land, because it's fairly inefficient to pay 4 mana to effectively Rampant Growth through Sakura Tribe Builder. So here, I believe Teferi is the strongest play, so we will do it. Again, Teferi, a unique planeswalker, you could use his loyalty abilities on any player's turn. So in Commander, that means you can usually use him 4 times in a single rotation, and he ults in 1.75 rotations. Pretty strong. So it's going to help draw a card and discard a card here. So right here, again, extra turn is not really what we want here. It just won't do anything. It would just provide 1 additional tick to Teferi. Probably won't matter in the long run. Okay, so now we will be on the opponent to our left's turn. So we'll tick up again, draw a card. Discard a card. Okay, landed exactly what we want. So Finale, usually I would say if you have everything you need, which at this stage of the game with ramp, card draw, interaction, I would honestly discard the tutor because it's just an inefficient way to get what you already have in hand. So I would actually discard the tutor here. Okay, now for the person in front of us, I think it would take a very strong draw to. Oh, I'm just gonna phone call just real quick. It would take a very strong draw to make us discard anything we have in hand right now. So 4 or 5, yeah. So we've ticked up for the person in front of us to draw a card. Sphinx of Enlightenment is more redundancy on card draw. Given these other options here, we just discard one of the more expensive Sphinxes. We'll go with Athune because it gives more information to opponents with a factor fiction. Drawing 3 cards with both of these would be fine. And then one more uptick to represent the opponent to our right. Apologies, screen recorder lags a little bit. If I get more serious with this, I will invest into a proper camera. Okay, now with this draw obviously changes things. So Seaborn Muse, very dedicated combo piece with Thrasios in the command zone, so we're definitely keeping that. What to discard? So assuming Teferi is still alive, he actually doubles as interaction here. So let's see. So you have Teferi and Resculpt. So it's consideration to discard Resculpt, although it's fairly aggressive. With both Sphinxes here, we could argue that one is redundant, and we could hold on to Resculpt for that reason. Let's see. In a game right now, it's turn 3. It would probably be fairly aggressive to discard this Resculpt. But then again, as I said, Teferi is already on the field to interact with creatures. So I think we can take the aggressive line here, and actually this would also depend on current board pressure to the Teferi. If we're expecting an ult, and usually if Teferi makes it back to your turn, not disrupted, you can play pretty aggressively expecting an ult, because if people could deal with him, they would do it before you get a chance to untap. So we'll assume that in this playtest, and we'll go for the aggressive play and discard the reskull. Okay, now we will get to our turn with the actual free draw. So Into the North's a great draw here. It represents exactly what we want to do. We're going to play the land regardless, so generally smarter to hold it before the Teferi tick up, but you really only get punished by maybe Ancient Tomb. And barring that, another land is okay. So assuming Kodama's reaching Into the North resolve, when we play as though they're going to resolve, we can discard this land since Kodama's reach is going to pick up another. So what we'll do in this turn is just jam some ramp. Into the North specifically gets a snow land, puts it in the play tap. In this deck, unless you're getting Rimewood Falls, which I'm getting right here, it's the Snow Forest Island, and always comes into play tap. Unless you're getting that, Into the North is functionally a ramp of growth in this deck. On the playtester, I don't have all of these as snow lands. I'll fix that soon enough, but in paper, this deck is all snow. And then you may be thinking, why not play Thrasios here? Because once we ramp, Thrasios, so especially if we ult this Teferi, Thrasios won't do much until we hold up mana to activate him. And if this Teferi ults, we'll have an entire turn to play Thrasios and Seaborn. So we're going to go ahead and ramp with the Kodama's Reach, put more mana into play, and ensure we get a land drop on our next turn. So we'll go ahead, Island tap. We've hit triple green. I may or may not have mentioned that Kogla is the only triple green pip in here. Or, in this case, playing Seaborn and Thrasios in one turn, we have the triple green necessary to do that. So we'll take an island. Okay, so we'll keep going, assuming Teferi is not pressure, which is not unreasonable, especially if we had him out turn 3 on the play. Not a very tall assumption. And if necessary, we could have foregone the ramp that turn and just play Thrasios as a blocker, or at least foregone the Into the North. But anyway, ticking up for the person on our left's turn. Draw a card. We'll discard a fetch land here. Yeah, we have plenty of draw. Actually, we'll discard the basic in the event that our card advantage spell draw more lands, and then we can chain lands out with Kodama. Okay, then need to tap them. We'll tick up for the person in front of us. Draw a card. Same logic, going to discard the island here, and then on the person to our right's turn, at this point, Teferi ult. So I'll go ahead and put him in the graveyard, and I'll use second life counter to represent extra turns. So technically, in the rule sense, once the person to our right ends their turn, we will go to our extra turn, second extra turn, then our normal turn. But in practice, it doesn't really make a difference. So I'll just stay on our normal turn and decrease as we go down for extra turns. All right, so we'll go to our extra turn. So I would expect the deck to actually win here, or at least get into a position that's near insurmountable to come from, given that it's basically a time stretch after our normal turn. So we'll play to that goal. We'll just keep jamming threats that are basically must counter, and if not, we're going to run away with the game. So Kodama here. I believe a savvy player here would actually let Kodama resolve with 5 cards in hand, because he still doesn't really do much by himself at this point. So, and as you can tell, our hand, it doesn't, so it's going to draw more cards, but Kodama's not really pivotal to anything except pseudo doubling our mana. But he doesn't actually do that until something resolves. So if I were an enemy player here, I would consider letting Kodama resolve. Because if he doesn't resolve right here, yes, we more or less lost a turn, but next turn we can draw more cards, and then the turn right after that, slam Seaborn Thrasios. So it's really just a bait, in my opinion. Okay, so we will play a land here. Sequencing for Kodama with land drops is always play the fetch land first, so that if he resolves, you get priority again as active player, assuming you have no other triggers. You have a chance to play a land before anyone can try to kill Kodama. If you play the fetch land and he triggers, and then someone goes for a kill spell, you can crack the fetch, get the fetch land, and get a trigger before he gets removed. So keep that in mind. So we'll crack for forest. I'll lose all life in a moment. Kodama will trigger for 0 or less. We'll go ahead and put this island into play. That was a very short sequence, but keep in mind, Kodama can do that for every fetch land in your hand. So this card's pretty busty when you have a lot of cards in hand. And we'll go ahead and play Thrasios since we have the mana. Forgot to take my damage, I'm sorry. Kodama for 2 or less, but nothing here. So that would do it for the first extra turn. And I would assume here, again, I think a smart player or a more experienced player would let us do this and wouldn't interact just yet. So we'll go to this turn. So Let's see, Eternal Witness. What's in our graveyard? Okay, so we got an extra turn spell. So Eternal Witness is actually a very strong draw, especially because we can use Kodama to air quote gate in the Eternal Witness. Now, what do I mean by that? If we put the Sphinx of Enlightenment or the Inspired Sphinx on the stack, once they resolve and Kodama triggers, it's a Kodama trigger for 6 or less, and our opponents can't really interact. They can't use a counter magic, a counter spell on that effect unless it's like specifically stable counter target, a triggered ability or something to that effect. So if our opponent is waiting to like hold a counter spell to what they think is important, Kodama can kind of trick people in that regard. So again, our graveyard's pretty stacked. Extra turn will probably be pretty good here, and notably actually with Finale of Devastation in the yard, Eternal Witness is part of the combo, one of the main combos in this deck to take infinite turns. Finale of Devastation allows us to get Sakashima the Imposter or Kogla the Titanate to actually enable that combo. But I think we're going to be short on mana to do that with our current resources. So in this playtest, I'll assume everything resolves here, but I'll try to play as smart as possible. So given that we don't have a counterspell in hand, I wouldn't want to play the Sphinx of Enlightenment unless, or if I would play the Inspired Sphinx before the Sphinx of Enlightenment, because if we got this far, I could probably assume nobody has interaction, and we don't want any opponents to draw a card. And then the 1 mana, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. On a hand, it would make a difference. It would allow us to play the Eternal Witness. So, but that's not a reason we would need to take at this point. So we'll go ahead and stick with the Inspired Sphinx. And we actually haven't played any lands yet because we didn't draw any, and Kodama's probably going to do work. So we'll go ahead and tap 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Put the Inspired Sphinx on the stack. All right, so and the proper sequencing of triggers here is to put Kodama on the bottom so that we see more cards before we have to resolve the Kodama for 7. So we'll resolve the Inspired Sphinx, draw cards equal to the number of opponents, likely 3 in a typical Commander game. Jesus, okay, there's lag. Okay, Kogla is a great draw because, as I said, we possibly can go into infinite turns here with that draw. Or even if we can't, Jace is actually ridiculous with Eternal Witness for turns because it allows you to, if you Fate Steal anyone with Jace, that puts them up to 5 loyalty. Eternal Witness after that to get a turn back and take an extra turn. Jace can bounce the Eternal Witness each turn to replay it and replay the turn, effectively giving you recurring turns until Jace runs out of loyalty for the cost of 8 mana, but usually this deck can get above 8 mana pretty quickly. But back to the actual Kodama trigger. Okay, so we drew these 3. Unfortunately, we did not see land, and we actually have a combo in hand and in graveyard, but we are limited by mana at the moment. So our goal right here is to make sure we get enough mana to do that. So I would take a risk here. So this is actually a must counter, or the game just ends, and we will have a good backup plan with the Seaborn Thrasios combination. So right here, I would actually Kodama out the Sphinx of Enlightenment to draw even more cards. So we'll draw 3 and opponent draws 1. The way to pick this, in my opinion, we're going to draw that anyway. If you have to pick someone to draw a card, pick someone in a color combination that's least likely to have interaction, and then also, let's see, so avoid black and white because we care about creatures here, and obviously blue if someone has mana up. Also try to pick the person who does not have a commander out because then you don't have to play around free interaction spells. Okay, so we got this draw. This is decent. Yeah, we still have a turn after this. So we could play a land here, but we can try to get greedy. The most important thing to get on board right here is mana. So we're actually going to brainstorm here to try to find more. So we'll brainstorm. 1, 2, 3. Super unfortunate, heavy punish. And there's not much we can do about it. But we can put back cards that we really don't need. So we'll go with Ulamog and put back what doesn't matter here. All these cards are kind of ridiculous. Spellseeker, Spellseeker and Mystical Tutor are both tutors, except Mystical Tutor is just generally it's broader but less efficient in the sense that it puts the card on top and not into your hand. But that shouldn't matter here. We have basically what we need to win. So we'll put Spellseeker back. We'll play a land. Kodama will trigger for 0, but we have nothing to put in. Put in Sakura Tribe Elder. Kodama trigger for 2 or less, but we have nothing. We'll go ahead and sack to shuffle away those cards we don't want. Get an island. Another Kodama trigger. Let's see. But nothing to put out. Shuffle here. Notably, we also drew Force of Will, which would allow us to protect something if somebody did have interaction at this point. But again, if we get to this point, I wouldn't expect anybody to have any interaction. Also, we'll swing with Kodama here, and we'll go to extra turn. So untap. So no extra turns left. This will be the last one. So on upkeep, we could Mystical Tutor for another turn just to have 5. Apologies. Air quotes free mana. Or so let's see. Mystical Tutor for a turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and play it, and then play something. And by something I mean Jace here, which will gate in the Eternal Witness to then start looping turns. That's not really necessary in my opinion. We have the especially with the Force of Will backup. So I think a smarter play to do is to like save Jace to back up a Force of Will. I'm sorry. Yeah, save Jace as to pitch the Force of Will, or possibly even Mystical Tutor. Try to, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If we can resolve the Regal Behemoth, and then resolve the Regal Behemoth and fight for it with Force of Will if necessary. Pitching, I'll pitch Mystical Tutor again because we have the combo in hand. We don't need to find anything else. If we resolve the Regal Behemoth with Force backup, gaining the Eternal Witness to take another turn, that goes infinite right there. So that's the play we would go. We don't need to do anything in upkeep. So we'll just take a draw step. And again, we shuffled because of the Sakura Tribe. Okay, so we're not going to draw any cards this turn because we have what we need. So we'll go ahead and play this land even though we don't have any Kodama advantages. So play a fetch land, Kodama trigger. I'm not going to use it. Go ahead and sack. Go find don't have Tropical out yet. Go ahead and get Tropical Island. There we go. Again, Kodama for 0, but nothing to take advantage of it. Okay, then we'll tap for 6. Fairly simple, but remember tap basics first before anything else. Okay, 6. So, and actually, a clever play we could do here, as I mentioned, with gating things with Kodama. If someone was still holding up counter magic for some reason, we could play Kogla, and Kogla has CMC 6 or 6, which will allow us to Kodama in the Regal Behemoth, and then with double mana, that's even more resources for our opponents to have to fight against. So that would actually be the smarter play because in this situation, Kogla is very unlikely to either counterspell. So we'll play Kogla, resolve the Kodama for 6 or less, and of course fight something, and then we'll go in for the Regal Behemoth. And again, opponents could not aim a counterspell at the Regal Behemoth. They'll have to use a stifle effect on Kodama's ability. So Regal Behemoth will come in and trigger for us to become the Monarch. If someone tried to fight here with removal, let's see, 1, 2, 3. I wouldn't fight over it because even if this fails and they kill the Regal Behemoth, we still have enough mana to play Seaborn Muse right here. And then we have Force of Will to protect it with a Force of Will pitching Jace to protect the Seaborn and Mystical Tutor for a counterspell, which is definitely going to run away with the game. But definitely going to run away with the game. But even if that doesn't, let's just assume nobody interacts at this point. Regal Behemoth resolves, trigger to become the Monarch happens. Regal Behemoth's second ability says whenever we tap a land for mana while we're the Monarch, add 1 mana of any type. So effectively doubles land mana. So right after that, this game is basically over, but again, still playing safe. And since we don't really need to take any risk, we would tap this for a generic and add a green from the Behemoth's ability. Tap this for green and then add a blue. So we're floating a blue. We would go for Eternal Witness. And again, not playing Jace here just to keep it as, as pitch fodder to Force of Will in case somebody interacted here. Because again, Kogla, E-Witness, turn spell in the yard is our combo. So assuming this resolved with no interruption, we have no Kodama targets or anything, we'll put Capture Jinx out in hand. And at this point, if no one can interact with our board, the game is over, assuming they don't have sufficient resources to block our current threats, which we could also tutor for Cyclonic Rift, go for Jace Ultimates or whatnot. Again, the loop here, for those that can't see it, so I'll just play it out. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have 1 blue floating. We'll play Capture Jinx out on its extra turn, and again we have Force of Will backup with Jace right here. No other way that I'd see to draw a card at the moment, but that's okay. And with 1 more mana, we could actually again let it happen and then just jam Seaborn. But again, at this point, I think opponents would not let us gotten this far. So we have another extra turn stored. At this point, we can play Jace, although it really doesn't matter. Actually, yeah, we can play Jace. It really wouldn't matter. Kodama for whatever, or less, but that doesn't matter. Take him up. And we'll just go to the extra turn. At the end of turn, we will draw a card for being the Monarch because of the Regal Behemoth. So we untap. No need to use a tutor because we have our win in hand, win on field. We'll draw for turn. We'll use Kogo's ability, green, and effectively double land mana from the Regal Behemoth. Return target human you control to its owner's hand. Kogo gains indestructible until end of turn. We'll return the Eternal Witness. Put a blue here. Play the Eternal Witness. Konami triggers won't matter here because it's 7 turns. Floating a blue, get the turn back, and then cast it here. So again, when that's repeatable as much as we want, hopefully we can kill the opponents before we deck out from the forced draw per turn and Monarch draw. And then this mana is all free to use as the pilot sees fit, especially if we resolve Coma, it can tap down any relevant permanents and just quickly flood the board. So there you have it. That's a simple play test. It showcased pretty straightforward what the deck is designed to do. Again, so it may seem a bit carried by the Teferi Ultimate, but it's really not that unrealistic if he comes out turn 3, especially if you're on the play. It's not very unrealistic to get Teferi to Ultimate in that situation. Usually on turn 2, people are playing Mana Rocks, and you need a pretty aggressive pod to pressure him quickly enough to stop him from ulting. So yeah, thank you for watching. Leave any comments if you have any tips on how these videos keep getting better. I plan to keep making more to show off different versions of my deck.